Good evening and welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Tina Dawson, the owner of True Blue Designs, and I thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like and share and let everyone know that you are on the air. We are streaming live simultaneously on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel at True Blue Designs. Now, everyone, you are in for a treat. The last 2 weeks, my guest has been on a whirlwind. And I've been right along with her on this ride. And we are just so proud of her. Tonight's guest is, oh Lord, I printed the wrong one. Well, tonight's guest is, she just recently got her pro card. She is now an IFBB Pro. IFBB stands for the International Federation of Bodybuilders, and it is one of the top bodybuilding federations in the world. And on September the 1st, she actually competed in a IFBB Pro show, and we are happy to announce that tonight's guest obtained her pro card. Now, if any of you know anything about the bodybuilding world of bodybuilding or the bodybuilding industry, it is heavily regulated, and it is very, very, very competitive, and it takes a lot of training, and a lot of shaping your body, a lot of coaching, a lot of she had to have a posing coach. She had to have a actual trainer herself. She's a trainer. And there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to make this event happen for a competitor. So tonight, I asked her to come on. I'm so happy that she said yes. And she's going to be on tonight to talk about her journey to owning her pro card, to getting her pro card, and talk about her journey from the first time she competed all the way up until September the 1st. So you are really in for a treat. Again, please like and share. Let everyone know that we are on the air, and help me give a warm welcome to tonight's guest, Miss SheNesia Ewing.
Hey, what's going
Hey,
on?
how are you?
I'm doing good, baby. How you doing?
Doing good. Look, I have the wrong, my wrong. I have the last time I interviewed you questions.
Well, they've been stuck in the printer. That's okay.
Look, so thank God I know you.
Right, that part.
So we're going to start off. How are you doing this evening?
Listen, today has probably been one of the most easiest days I've had since my goodness, and probably about maybe 18, 19 weeks. And so I did absolutely nothing. So I'm good. How you doing?
I am doing great, and you deserve to have a day off. You have really been working nonstop, tirelessly for the last, I'll say, 60, 90 days, was really since your last show, to prepare for this upcoming show that you did. Usually there's a little break in between your shows where you're something flying. I'm sorry. Usually there's a break in between your shows where you're preparing for your next show. And so your preparation is usually a little bit longer than what you had this time. You had got out of a show and then you had to prepare to go right back into this show. And so you really didn't have that much time in between. So yeah, today you had a carefree day a little bit, and you deserve it. You deserve
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for noticing and keeping up with all the hard work that I have been, had going on. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you know I'm in your corner, Coach Deezer. Look, I had to get it in. I had to get it in on live. Okay, so everyone, the last time SheNesia was on our show was on November the 9th, 2022. And on that show, she talked about her life and being a life coach. She's an author, and she's the owner of Uncovering the New You. And so tonight he's here to talk about her journey to owning her pro card. So for those who have not seen your last show, can you just start off by telling them a little bit about yourself?
Well, I go by Coach Nisi, but I'm SheNesia Ewing. I'm out of Marietta, Georgia. I am the owner and founder of Uncovering the New You, which is a fitness transformation company that utilizes fitness and nutrition to help women not only lose weight, but to build a lifestyle of movement in the process. As we get older and our movement slowly decreases, so does our body. And so my vision is to change one life at a time and making movement a lifestyle rather than just a day-to-day thing. I am a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a doctoral student. I'm in the process of finishing up my dissertation in the field of psychology. I am I'm a published author. I'm a first sergeant in the Army. I just came off of drill sergeant orders less than a year ago. Um, Man, there's so many things to me, but I'm pretty basic, pretty to myself. Love helping, people, changing lives and pouring into others just as much as, I pour into myself on a daily.
Right. Well, thank you for that. Yes, she does wear a lot of hats. And she is, for those who do not know, she is my personal coach. And one thing that I have learned from you is that it's all about lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that. You have some people who go on diets
Mm-hmm.
because they either want to get in a wedding dress or they want to get in a bikini for the summer, or they have goals like that, not knocking those goals.
Right.
But when in Uncovering the New You, you teach us about lifestyle change. So let's talk a little bit about that.
So for me, as a person, I have tried diets. Like I'm not even going to sit here and say I've never tried some of the mainstream diets that are out here in order to lose weight. I had to because I had to understand what the hype was about them as a coach from a coach's perspective. And as I built my knowledge on nutrition, I realized that I got tired of eating the same foods, which I do in bodybuilding, but because I had switched my lifestyle into the way that I eat anyway, it was easier. But prior to the bodybuilding world, you get tired of eating the same foods. You go out with your friends and you get tired of being restricted. You get tired of feeling like, you have to pick and choose everything that you put in your mouth. And the deal is that if you find your balance with that, meaning that you're exercising, and when you exercise, your exercise is bouncing off of your workout regimen. It is important that we don't push diets, like, because that's not a lifestyle. You can't stay, doing a diet for the rest of your life, because
Right.
ultimately you're going to miss the nutrition. You're going to miss the minerals and the vitamins that come from other foods, including grease that helps you go to the bathroom. You know what I mean? So I teach my clients balance. I believe that it is important that we don't look at restriction, because people have been restricted a lot in their past, and restriction, in my opinion, is is a traumatic thing. So I don't like to do restriction, but I like to make sure that my clients understand what balance looks like. So we
Right.
don't do diets. We build a lifestyle off of the foods that you eat, and learning to moderate what you eat, ensuring that we are giving more in the exercise and balancing out on the good versus the bad.
Okay. Well, for those of you who did not see her first interview, you can go to our YouTube channel at True Blue Designs. We are on YouTube, have a YouTube channel. And if you type in her name, SheNesia Ewing, coach, if you just type in the word coach, you will see her first interview that was on November the 9th, 2022. So I'm going to encourage everybody to go and check out that interview. But tonight, we're going to talk about her current milestone that she has reached. Now, before we get started, before we get to September the 1st, talk a little bit about what encouraged you or interested you about getting into the world of bodybuilding.
So majority of my clients are over 45. right? They are in their 50s, 60s. I even used to have a young lady, she was at age of 76 years old as my client. She was with me for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, well, listen, you are young, you are vibrant, you don't have any challenges. And it's true because I'm still able to go. I don't mind saying this, but I'm going to hit the 40s club this year, so I'm super excited, right? I'm the baby trainer here. But the
Okay.
thing was that I'm injured. I have to make a lot of modifications with my training style. I have to be very careful because I got injured in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And my body has been through a lot because after 4 deployments to Iraq, that in itself was something that I knew I needed to control to keep my career. So ultimately, I wanted to show my clients that I could challenge myself too. Because they're like, oh, well, you got discipline from the military. You got discipline from being an athlete. That is not true. Because again, you will see some overweight military service members in all branches. You will see them, right? You will see some unhealthy and overweight athletes, depending on the sport you're looking at. So I wanted to show them I can put myself through the test of change, that I can be disciplined in something that I know nothing about and
Mm-hmm.
give myself the opportunity to change
Okay.
and actually live the mission and purpose of uncovering the new you, which is change your mind, change your circumstances, new mind, new body, new you.
Okay. So when was your first competition?
December 2021.
Okay, so just a couple of years ago.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about your journey to get to that competition.
So I knew nothing. I knew nothing about opposing coach at that time. That specific coach for me, um, well, I went through two coaches in that season. But the coach that I ended up getting on stage with, he in itself was like my posing coach. He was like, because he's been in this industry for years, very knowledgeable, very educated, has turned a lot of people into pros. And we went into wellness. I was not a figure competitor. So for those of you who are wondering, I am a figure pro. I am on in the divisions: bikini, wellness, figure, physique, and bodybuilding for women. I am figure. And so
Okay.
I was wellness, which is more glute heavy. I mean, glute and quad heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And as we got into there, we trained. I had to learn the different poses, the different styles of suits, learning how to pose in heels. And after my second show, which was in 2022, around March or April timeframe, one of the judges told my coach, "Do not bring her back into wellness." And I
Mm-hmm.
said, she said, "She is not going to do well." And why? Because I'm Patty Mayonnaise. Okay, I'm Patty Mayonnaise. I can't. My glutes are not big. They don't. I am not stacked like a horse. You know what I mean? I don't have a lot of junk in my trunk, but I'm not. And so when the judge told him that, he said, "Okay, let's look at your body type. Let's look at what we're going to do." That second show after that, and I did. I mean, I placed in the top three, but it was only because I did have some size and my quads, popped out. I've got big legs. I'm a runner. So
Mm-hmm.
my legs are big anyway. So that third show, I came out as a figure competitor. And he realized, because he said to me after the second show, "Do you like to lift?" I said, "I love lifting." He said, "Okay." He said, I want to take your body through something. And I want to take your body through figure. And he said, "Do you know anything about figure?" I said, "No. The only thing I knew who Miss Olympia was." And I'm like, "You want me to do what?" And so he said, "And you're gonna have to lift heavy. You all right with that?" I'm like, "Okay." And when he gave me my first workout program, I'm sitting up there like, I was like, "Wait." But ultimately it was the best decision that he could have ever made for me. The best
Yeah.
decision that he could have ever, I ain't gonna say made for me, but proposed to me and
Right.
gave me an option, because I could have still continued to try, but I didn't want to keep wasting my money and going into an industry. I mean, going into a division that I
Right.
knew I just was not made for physically. And so my aesthetics was not going to allow me to ever become wellness. And so figure was something that he said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And we grew on that. We grew on that from day on, and went from May show. Do you want me to continue on with that?
Yeah, yeah. Because I was going to ask you, give us the dates of the other shows that you did.
Okay. So 2022 May, I did the show in Charlotte. I did very well. I
Now that was your second show,
third show.
third show. What was your
Yeah.
second show?
My second show was in so actually no. So the first one was here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
The second show uh was a wellness show. Again, that was here in Atlanta as well. The third
Okay.
show was Charlotte. It was
Okay.
Charlotte. It was my first figure show. And after that, my next show was in August, which was in Florida, where I
Mhm.
qualified for nationals.
Okay.
When I placed third. And
Okay.
that was great because I still had not had any type of posing. My coach was still, he's the man up there, trying to show me what it looked like. And I'm up here screenshotting stuff, and going from there. So August came, then November came of 2022, and I went to Florida,
Mm-hmm.
went to nationals, did well, you know what I mean? Didn't come out with my pro card at that time. And 2023 rolls around, and I trained, and then I went to junior nationals, which was in June. Yep, right before my son's birthday,
Yeah.
June of 2023. Um, I got first in my class, top
Yeah.
5. I came out number 4
Right.
in the overall. Third. The next show right after that was in July, which
Mm-hmm.
I pushed, which was very hard, which was in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Did not do as well as I thought. I placed third. I
Mm-hmm.
came in really big, came in really hard, and that was not what they wanted to look for. My body needed rest. But once I took my rest, I said, okay, all of August I rested. And September 1st is the day. Well, I'm gonna say I rested, meaning I just allowed my body to recover properly by training lighter, less intense. But come September 1st, I went to Pittsburgh, and that's where I gained my pro card. So that's
You've been bodybuilding really for maybe a year and a half.
a little less than that.
A little less than a year. And when you have the shows, I think you told me it was a total of 7 shows.
Yep, that was
Okay, so you've placed 5th or above though, correct?
Yep, I've always placed in the top 5.
You've always placed in the top 5. So that's pretty good starting off when you really didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So let's talk about your team, because you mentioned your coach. So there's a lot of behind the scenes that goes into a competitor preparing to go on stage. So let's just talk about a couple of the behind the scenes things that you have to put together, starting with the coach and then the posing, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. So yeah, that's all I have really is a posing coach, and a trainer. And my training, because my coach is virtual, and he gives me my program and tweaks my nutrition. He knows that I know how to train. And I prefer that because his schedule's busy, and so is mine. And yeah, that's it. Like my posing coaches in Florida, we would meet 2, maybe sometimes 3 times a week for posing. I pose every single day, but that's my team. That's it. And my mentor that I have out of Florida. So I have, those are the 3 people. That's it. That's all I talk to.
Okay. And then, so you have your 3 people that are helping you prepare for the show.
Yep.
But then once you get to the show, right, there's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes to get you. So you have those 3 people, but there's tanning, there's hair. So let's talk about the behind the scenes production that goes into you getting on the stage.
So the first thing is that I usually like to support small businesses. Every one of my shows, I went on Instagram and I have found a makeup artist that would travel to my room. I have met some amazing makeup artists with that, because usually the makeup for the shows are really expensive. They're usually charging 150 or above for a face. Now, again, I don't mind pouring that point into that, but they're already getting a lump sum. So for me as a small business owner, I like to hire a small business owner to make it easier. So I usually, again, like I said, I usually use a local, wherever I'm at, makeup artist to come to my room and do that. Usually I get my hair done. So I've gotten into wearing a weave. I love my sister locks, but my sister locks are not as long really yet for the what we need to do when we're on stage to actually present ourselves. So I find a local hairstylist as well. I usually try to use one here in Atlanta who usually can take care of my hair. And again, not use that service. I use the tanning service there. We get tan the day before. We get 2 coats. We get tan the day before, and then we get the tan the day of, and a gloss, which helps to expose the muscle in general. My nails, I have a nail tech here in Atlanta. I use one lady only. She's has been doing my nails for the last 3 years, so she knows exactly the style, the length, everything that I do with that. My body care, so I do go into that. So Jerica Maines here, well, Jerica Maines Johnson now, out of here. She owns her own company here in Atlanta. She does all my body work. And when I say body work, she does my Graston, she does my stretching, she does my compressions, my recovery. She does all my chiropractic work. Well, so she only does limited chiropractic work. Dr. Calabro here in Marietta does my chiropractic work. And so Jerica is again my savior when it comes to recovery of muscles and body. Then my chiropractor, I see him twice a week to adjust my hips and my body, especially because I'm injured. Let me see. My skin, I use Coda Skincare. That's mainly what I use. I stick to it. It's owned by a young lady by B. Marie out of there. Has really helped my skin glow, especially with the makeup, the sweat. Makeup on the day of the show and sweating when I'm working out has kept my skin very, very clear. My suits are made by, so the purchasing of my suits goes there as well. So Muscle Dazzle is usually where I get my suits from. Very, very specific people that I like in styles. And so they've worked with me my last 3 shows as well. All That Glitters Gems is where I get my jewelry from. So like all of that, I have to get all of that throughout my shows, and we recycle. Listen, I do wearing some of the same jewelry, but wearing all the same stuff. But it's just a matter of getting what I need. I use the same wig, I get it washed, laid down to the side.
So when you don't know anything about the industry, and then I just want to suggest that if anybody's interested and we're going to pose that question at the end, if anybody's interested in getting into the world of bodybuilding, I would suggest you watch one of the shows. It is a very interesting event. I didn't know anything about it the first time she competed when I knew her. And it was just very interesting. You learn a lot. I like commentators. That's the reason why I don't like going to a football game in person. It's because I like the people, the broadcasters, right? And I like to get all the information from them. It's the same way in bodybuilding, right? Because when you're listening to the broadcasters or the commentators, they're giving you a lot of good information. But there's a whole back scene production that has to go on before she gets on stage for her to look the same way. And I was wondering about the tanning, but you did explain it to me that the reason why people get tanned and glossed is so that it can expose make the muscles pop and really expose. Huh?
Under the lights, and so that
Under
when it
the lights, yeah.
glow, you shine, and so you see what type of conditioning is underneath the muscles.
Right. So let
Mhm.
me ask you this. When when competing in these events, can you explain a little bit about what the judges are looking for? Now she did say that there's different categories in these shows,
Mhm.
right? So your category is figure.
Mhm.
So as a figure competitor, what are the judges when you walk on stage? What are the judges looking for?
So I'm going to be very honest. It's a subjective sport
Right.
because what one person on the left will say, the other on the right may not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part. In my opinion, I am in one of the hardest categories, figure, because we can't be too big and we can't
Mm-hmm.
be too small. There's just not one area of our body that they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Figure is exactly what it is, the figure, the stature. And so, if I had to be very general,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say they're looking for conditioning. Conditioning is just the separation of the muscles. How are your muscles popping? The size, are they separated? Can you see the muscles in general? Can you see the different muscles within the quads and in the hamstrings? Can you see the glute and the hamstring tie-ins? Your stage presence. Are you nervous? Are you running through the motions? How are you taking your time? Are you really elegant? It's your product. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? You are going to be the face of the of NPC. You know what I mean? You are the face or the IFBB
Mm-hmm.
league, pro league. And so your face means something. Your presence means something.
Okay.
Did you take time to actually work through and actually do that? Do the work. So
Mm-hmm.
that is very general. Because again, this is a subjective sport. Because I am not a judge, and because I consider myself still new because I'm just
Mm-hmm.
a year and a half shy, right? And so I'm still learning the many things that the judges look for. But based
Mm-hmm.
on the handbook, those are the basic things that we're looking for: muscle development, conditioning, and stage presence for sure.
Okay. And so muscle development is how defined you are in certain areas of that they're judging you on, correct?
Not really how big, but just basically
Right.
how. Yes.
Right. I remember on the last competition, there was one, and I cannot remember which category it was because even in the categories, there's so many classes
Uh huh.
in the category, right? So sometimes the classes went up to G, sometimes the class went up to H, but it was
Those
one
are
of
high
the
classes. Those are high classes.
height.
Uh-huh. If you notice, I'm an A or B.
I didn't realize that. I did
Girl, the
not realize.
shorty.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
you learn.
shorty.
Okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't know the class A. Okay, see, learn something new every day. So
Yeah.
there was one lady that one competitor that across the this part of her back from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, she had a dark tattoo,
Uh-huh.
and then when she tanned, I'm almost certain when she tanned, it made it even darker. And what happened was, now I've watched enough to know a little bit what the judge is looking for, and I noticed that when she turned around, because of the tattoo and the tan, you really couldn't make out the definition in her muscles. I mean,
Yes.
in that part because it
Uh-huh.
was so dark and the light was shining. But I mean, if me watching on TV couldn't see it, I know it was hard to see. So
So
there's
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to say that there's certain things that they look for, and certain things that they count off. I guess they I don't want to say ding you, but I'm sure that they take away points for certain things, like if you're not defined enough in an area, if they feel that you're
Yeah.
not defined enough in an area, or if they really can't see the definition, that they will, just like you were saying, if you have long hair, when you turn around to show your back,
Mm-hmm.
you need to move your hair over in the figure category, right? Because there's another category that they're really looking from the waist down, and they can keep their hair down, right? So in the figure category, I've been watching. So in the figure category, you know, you were saying, you know, I have to move my hair to the side because they need to see the full definition of my back. If I leave my hair there, they're not going to really see it, and you know, they can take points away. So let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
It's a subjective sport. Like I said, you know, people run the risk of, I think people run the risk all the time with tattoos, you know, in this industry, only because it usually tattoos are placed over muscle. I don't really know the specifics of judging. So I won't say that I do or that I know, you know what I mean? Only because again, it is so subjective, and how people truly, well, the judges, I'll say, how they truly, you know, really begin to judge is based on their subjectivity. And so we just have to listen and get their feedback. And when they say more conditioning, we just got to go into more conditioning. And we have to be open to hearing that constantly, because that's all I've heard. More conditioning. And I've heard come down smaller, get a little smaller. Okay, cool. Right. And you know, it becomes a little bit more specific. And then, but that's all they'll say. And when I take it to my coach, he's like, I know what we got to do. Don't worry about it. We cool. Right. Okay. So it's a subjective sport. And people run the risk of, with tattoos, in my opinion, only because it does hide the muscle. But whether or not they actually get points taken off for it, I don't know.
Okay. Because I was just assuming that if you can't see the definition, that if they're looking for a certain definition, if you can't see it, then, you know, how can you judge it? So that, yeah, so that was just my 2 cents on that.
I like it.
Look, you are IFBB Pro, and I'm a watching pro, but I don't watch enough to know.
I like it.
Okay, so somebody like, okay, so listen, everyone, make sure you put your questions in the comments, and we'll make sure that Coach Nisi answers your questions throughout the show. Okay, so we talked about your team, and then we talked about nutrition. We talked about everything that has to take place behind the scenes so that you can have the perfect, your best package. Let me say that, your best package as you walk on up on the stage. And having that team is very important because, like I said, there's a lot of moving parts to being to competing, right? So the next thing I want to ask is, now that you have your card, well, first of all, let's tell the audience, what does it mean to be an IFBB Pro? What does that really mean?
Oh, I'm starting from the bottom again. No. So what this means is that now I'm doing pro level shows. I'm considered a professional in being able to develop my body in the athletic world of figure. That's pretty much what it is. Like, it just gives you a general understanding and say, this is what she earned. Now is this time to learn what a pro is. A pro has many perks, you know, sponsorships, endorsements, money. You know, money is now, you can earn money when you're on stage. You can get invited to major shows that are out there across the world. When you see a pro AM show, it means that it's for the pro league. And so it's just like the amateur again, but it's a little more difficult. It's a little more challenging now. So, you know, now that I'm in my off season, I am learning what that looks like and the growth of it, because it's now, again, like I said, it is very, 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 I'm not going to say difficult, but it's a challenge. And you have to really come in, dialed in as you get older and get in the face of the judges. And so, but just being a pro is the same thing like being an amateur. We're now just in different leagues with different reward systems, different capabilities, and we're looked at differently. You know, we had to go through the trial in order to, you know, to reap the reward, right? And so those are things. And so, yeah.
Okay. What does the NPC stand for?
Oh, national. Hold on. Listen, I get it wrong all the time, right? And so don't judge me. So it means um NPC bodybuilding.
I know the end is national.
Yes. The National Physique Committee.
That's right. Okay, that's
I
right.
always get it wrong.
Yeah,
I used to say National Fitness, but I'm like, fitness starts with an F. So
that's
it's
right.
National Physique Committee. Yes.
Okay, the reason why I asked you that is because we had this conversation that I'm about to bring up not too long ago, and I want the audience to hear it. Okay, so there are a plethora of amateur shows that you can register to compete in, right? Okay, but there's a difference in the amateur shows, right?
Yes. And
Okay.
the amateur shows, all the shows that you're getting ready to bring up, they can become pro too. They do have their pro level shows as well. But yes, you can start off in any federation that you desire. Yes.
Okay. So if you are with, and I'm just going to make up one. Okay. So I'm not talking about anybody, right? Because I start to say one that you know. So let's say ZZZ, right? Okay. So if you're in the ZZZ
Federation,
right? Okay. They have their amateur and they have their pro, right?
Yes.
Okay. But one thing I noticed about you was that a lot of what you did was dealing with the national.
So NPC has been probably one of the oldest around. So I kind of know where you're going with this. But when you look at other federations as well, the main difference is what they allow, meaning whether or not they're drug tested. Some like the ZZZ that we're talking about, they require polygraphs, they require drug testing, hair samples. Then you have some that are specifically for those who have disabilities. Like, you have so many different categories out there, and it really depends on what you want to go up against. The NPC, as from my understanding, as long as I've been, pretty much been researching what bodybuilding is and knowing about it, it's pretty much open. Like, if you decide that you want to use something for your training to enhance your training, you can. If you don't want to, you don't have to. You just know that you're going to be on stage with people who may or may not. In other federations, such as the ZZZ, it is the same. You can go into it, and the name of the shows will tell you whether or not they are natural shows. And again, it will tell you, or the federation will tell you, right, in their policies. However, it does not mean that if you are on stage with somebody, if you go on stage and go NPC, that you have to. So many people have asked me, do you use? No, you know what I mean? And the deal is, because that's not my forte. You understand? And so the deal is, I understand that it's a part of NPC, but it does not mean that you have to. It doesn't mean you have to. And it doesn't mean that it's required of you. And so when we start looking at it, people think that just because it's NPC that you have to use it. No, they're not going to make you do anything. This is a choice. You got to pay. Okay. Once you pay that registration, however you decide to get your training, then you just do it, which I love, because you get the competitiveness. You get to push yourself beyond the limits and not have to, feel pressured to do it. Natural shows, I have no big deal about it, right? It's harder to train as a natural. I've done it. But for me, I like the competitiveness of it. NPC was where I found my love, my passion, and just the environment versus other environments like the ZZZ that we were talking about and discussing. And they do different things as well too, like their style, their organization, like all of that stuff is just different.
It's just different.
Yeah.
So you have to find, so when you're getting into the world of bodybuilding, you have to find the federation that fits you and that you feel comfortable in, and that you feel comfortable competing in.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Because they're all different. Now, you did say that you are a all natural bodybuilding competitor. So So the answer to not really do you have to use enhancements, but could you be successful,
Yes, you
without
can.
using enhancements, and you are a
Absolutely.
product of that, and say yes,
Absolutely.
you're
Yes.
fully natural. Okay.
Yes.
And then so let me ask you this. So with the only one I know is NPC. So when I say other shows, I mean everybody else. Okay. So when you go to the top shows like Olympia and the different ones that we've probably had, most of us have heard of,
Yes.
do you have to qualify under a certain um, federation in order to get to Olympia?
Yes.
Or can you qualify in ZZZ? Okay, that's where I want to go. So let's talk about that.
So the NPC, from my understanding, is owns IFB so the Olympia falls under the IFBB Pro and falls under the NPC, the National Physique Committee. From my understanding, it is a shell. Everything falls. You have to be in this particular federation in order to get there. Now, there are, like the ZZZ, they have their own shell also. So where they have bigger shows, now they're not as known because, again, NPC is probably one of the most popular federations that you're out there, and it's well known because of its structure, right? Because of the shows like the Arnold, because of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Those are shows that are under NPC. Now, I have seen them begin to branch out and put NPC natural shows. Again, it's got to be under, but it's still under NPC. Right, but on a natural scale, which is fine. Again, like everything is going to fall under certain categories. Everybody has, their big shows every single year, that you can go to, but they're popular with people who are in that federation and they know more about it. Right? It's just like the NBA. You're not going to see, Steph Curry in the NFL playoffs. That he can't make it there because he's a basketball player. He's there with the NBA and he'll go to the NBA finals. It's not even called the playoffs and then the finals. But when you get to NFL, we go to the Super Bowl. You're not going to see Steph Curry in the Super Bowl. So again, it's one of those things where everything falls under a shell and it's pretty specific to the federation, from my understanding.
Okay, so if I'm understanding correctly, depending on what your end goal is, right? And you may start here, and then once you get feedback and figure out, like you started in wellness and switched to figure, once you figure out what your end goal is, get the right team, then you can also figure out which federation you need to be in, right?
You're going to be in that federation. I mean, if you're a beginner competitor, you have not committed, to a federation, then that would be right. But once you're in NPC, I am an IFBB Pro. I can't go over to ZZZ and say I'm a pro there. I can't do that. I have to compete from the amateur level all the way up again. Right. So I want to make sure that's clear. Like I am not a pro in any other federation except the IFBB Pro and NPC. Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So let's talk about that day. Let's talk about that Friday, September the 1st, right? Tell us a little bit about that day.
So, that day was pretty intense for me. So I woke up, that the show was going to be late. Everybody was, when I made my hair, not my hair appointment, but when I made my makeup appointment, my tanning appointment, we had to download this app where where it would give us updates about where the show was, so that when we were in our hotel rooms, we didn't have to sit downstairs or backstage. They would tell us, hey, figure, need to come down. Bodybuilding needs to come down. Everybody was there. So they would keep updating us. And I kept getting these updates about figure and how fast they were getting to me. And I had not done any makeup, had not done any hair. And I was stressed out. I was like, wait. So I kept going back and forth to the makeup, stand like, hey, I'm supposed to be getting my makeup done, and it says that here. Lady was like, no, we're good. We're 30 minutes ahead of time. I'm over here stressed out, like I'm sweating, and I'm already in my suit. I got my tan on. I was like, okay. And so I'm sitting around with my feet up on the chair so that I don't retain any water. And I'm just up here. And then I get another notice. I'm like, okay. The lady was like, well, you can come on in and just wait until your makeup artist. I said, no, I'm not going to wait. And that's not going to be in this space. I said, I'll just, get off my feet. And so finally finally the time comes and they say around 12 o'clock that we need to be backstage. It was 11:30.
Mm-hmm.
I had not gotten out one bit of makeup done, and I had not taken the rollers out of my hair. Oh, Mr. Ewing comes flying, flying downstairs, down the hallway with my suitcase. He putting on my shoes. He's taking out my rollers, and he's, one of the guys was like, I'll step in. He was a beautician. He, put curls in my hair, made it bounce, combed that baby out. And the lady just did a face for me to get on stage with because it was almost time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got backstage, got everything ready, pumped up a little bit. We use resistance bands or weights to do whatever pump up that we need in order to make us really, get in there. And it took about maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then we're in there. And so once I got on stage, did my presentation, I felt really confident about it. I felt really good. I had not eaten, so I was a little flat because I didn't have time to eat anything. So did my presentation. We did comparisons, and I shared the box with another beautiful lady. Yeah. I shared the box, and no one knew, where we stood. And we come back, at 5:30. Well, yeah, 5:30. They told us to be back. We got on stage around 8.
Yeah.
Around 7:30, 8 o'clock.
It was around 8 o'clock.
And when they called her number, I think she was 51. And I wanted to stand there. I had this whole, in my head, like what I was going to do. I was like, oh, beat that surprise look. But it didn't hit me. It didn't hit me at all that they said 55, SheNesia Ewing, first prize. You have earned. It didn't hit me. I was like, okay, go on out. And I still didn't cry. I still didn't have any emotion until my soror, one of my sorors who was competing also, I went downstairs and she says, baby, you did it. And I seen the tears in her eyes and I walked down and my face just was swelling like, oh my God. And in the audience, I hear Mr. Ewing, yes, oh my God, yes, I hear all of this happening. And so, for me, that it didn't really, it still hadn't sunk in. I was crying, I felt it, and I was like, oh my God, I really won. Like, I did this, and it was so surreal for the moment. And I went out there and overall, of course, I knew with the other ladies in the other categories who were a lot more efficient than I was not going to win overall, which is fine with me because I walked away with my pro card.
Right, right. Which is what you had came there to do.
Yeah, that's exactly what I came to do. I didn't come to win overall, and I didn't come to take everything home. I just wanted one thing, and I got my pro card, and so now it's this time for me to get better. But it didn't hit me. I really like you did it until I woke up the next morning and I saw that card sitting there.
Wow.
And I just bawled. Because when you've been told no at everything else in your life, I'm sorry. You've been told no so many times in your life with things. I've never made captain of my cheer squad, volleyball, basketball. I never made a team lead at a job that I've had. I was never good enough for other things in my life. When you get told no all the time, every time, over and over again, when you finally get that moment to celebrate, it's like, wow, you really did something. And bodybuilding is an individual sport. sport. You
Right.
have to put in the work. So
Right.
you show up and you ain't do the work, that's on you. You
Right.
understand? But this time they told me yes, and I earned it. I
Yeah.
put in the work, I put in the hours, the early mornings, and I did it. So it's like it is hitting me now.
Look, you're gonna have both of us crying. I'm trying to hold back my tears. I totally understand. It's a good feeling because it's a goal. It's a goal that you set out to accomplish. But I want to tell everybody that when she set out on these goals, even before I knew her when she did the first show, I wasn't a part of the team or part of her coaching team or fitness team or whatever. One thing that you did was you took everybody, all of your clients with you.
I did.
So it wasn't just a win for you. It was a win for your family. It was a win for you. It was a win for your coaches, the behind the scenes team. It was a win for all your clients. So you took everybody on the journey with you. And so I think that added on to the intensity of the emotion, right? Because it was a lot, because it was you were trying to show yourself something, but you were also trying to make a statement to all of us, right? Never to give up on your dream. And yes, you can if you zero in on the end result and put in the work that is needed to get there. Focus. You have to sacrifice, right? Within that time frame. And and the most important thing is you have to believe, right? Absolutely. Because if you don't believe that you can do it, and then have that environment around you that's pushing you to say yes, especially on your weekdays, your emotionally weekdays, right? When you don't feel it, you have to have that environment that is pushing you. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So that you can get to the end goal. So, you carried a lot of people with you. And I just want to say, I can speak for the team. We are just so proud of you because, a lot of us have other goals, right? It may not be bodybuilding, it may not be, but we have other goals. We have personal goals, we have professional goals. And, just what you went through and carrying us with you shows us, no matter what the goal, if you focus, get you a team, and put in the work, whatever that goal is, you can actually reach it.
There you go.
Yeah, you did. You put in the work, and I am so happy. I think a comment came in. Let's see. Oh, Michelle said, y'all got me crying. There it is. She said, y'all got me crying. I know, Michelle, she went there.
Hey, I did. I'm sorry. But it's amazing because again, we doubt ourselves so many times. And here's the deal. When you are in something, one of the things I tell my clients all the time, so that we don't focus on the scale. We don't focus on trying to restrict ourselves or diets. We're going to focus on just changing our lifestyle every single day, and you're going to get the results. My life was not easy because I still had my son. I still had school. I still had to run a business. I still had to be a wife. I still had to be a daughter. I still had to be a sister. I still had to be a friend. I still had to be a first sergeant. And I still had to find time to be Coach Nisi. SheNesia. You understand? Wow. And so that balance was not easy for me, but it made it easy because you all understood the assignment. Nothing that you ever did lacked, and nothing that I had going on lacked, because I made sure that there was time available for everything across the board. It may seem like a lot, but when you organize your time and you believe in the process, then that's all that matters. You're going to get it done, and you're going to find a way. You're going to find a way. Again, the sacrifice was just getting up early in the morning and going to bed early. Like I'm past my bedtime now. You understand?
I know.
11:30, I'm in the bed, baby. Them covers up. Okay. But the deal is, is that I understand the assignment and the mission and the purpose behind it. And if anyone just understand that no matter what you got on your plate, no matter what you're going through, you can do anything that you put your mind to if you just align yourself with what you want and you fill in the gaps of your life inside of it. Because my clients were behind me and I made sure y'all programs were always done, updated. I made sure my son was always had what he needed. He always had mom available, for homework. And I mean, it was something that I wasn't going to fail.
Right.
When we put ourselves on a back burner so often as mothers, as wives, as sisters, as friends, even as granddaughters and grandsons, we put ourselves on the back burner for everybody else. And when it comes time for us, we don't know what to do. This was for me.
Right.
You understand? I did it for me, but in essence, it was for y'all. Everybody who's been a part of Uncovering the New You and been a part of my journey, this was for y'all. This was for my son. You understand? This journey was not just mine alone. Sometimes you gotta have a purpose on that end. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
So y'all already know how I am with y'all. Like it's real. I wanted to show you that you can get it done if you just build your life around it. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Sorry, I got a little emotional there.
I know that's okay. Listen, what advice would you give someone that is interested in the world of bodybuilding? What advice would you give them?
Oh, all right. Here's a couple things.
She said, "Ooh."
Yeah. Listen to your coach. If you hire a coach, listen to that coach. Don't be seeking and farming out for information. If that coach is not giving you what you need, go find a coach that will. You understand? I've been through a number of coaches, not because of bad things, but simply because we did not fit. We were not a good fit, and that was fine. I still love them, respect them, love everything that they taught me. But you find a coach that will hear you, that will listen to you, pour into you just as much as they're going to lead you in the right direction to the stage. And so everybody can be a coach. You understand? Not everybody is I'm not for everybody. I'm gonna say it like that. So every coach is not for everybody. 2, follow the plan. If you follow the plan to the T, then you have a reason to tell your coach that it doesn't work. You understand? But if you cheating every weekend, sneaking ice cream, M&Ms, donuts, a little chip here, then you cannot honestly say that their program doesn't work. So stick to the program and, at least for 6 weeks to understand whether or not you're going to get some changes behind it. 3, show up for yourself. Fasted cardio at 4:30 in the morning is not my forte. But understand this, when my coach said it was a part of my program, I did it. So the thing is that I did things that made me uncomfortable, getting up early, making those sacrifices. 4, this is an individual sport. No one is going to give you the motivation to do it. Understand that you got to want it for yourself. Your coach can't give it to you. They give you a guideline. Your opposing coach, your friends are not going to be behind you because they're wondering why you're so crazy because you're eating the same foods every day, right? You've got to have your own motivation and determination in this process to get it done. It's the same thing with any journey that you're on. Everybody's not going to agree with it. Everybody is not going to like it. There are going to be some people who downplay what you want to do. But when you make it about you and your process and you hire the coach that you need and you get the tools that you need, you stick by that. You stick by that and you stay with it. Right? Don't give up on yourself and let nobody tell you that you've got to do something that you're uncomfortable with. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't get something in a certain amount of time. I got my pro card in less than a year and a half. Right. I'm very proud of that. You understand? It took me 7 shows to get it. I met a girl who said it has taken her almost 10 years.
10?
Yes, she's been at this thing for 10 years. Right. And so I just had the right package at the right time with the right coach. You understand? And it's not going to happen like that for everybody else.
That's true.
Last but not least, take a day off. The biggest thing for me was self-care emotionally and spiritually. I got closer to my God. I got closer to my balance. And I found what I needed for me in order for me to not become evil Knievel or Cruella de Vil. Okay. Right. I found my balance. Make sure you take self-care days. It was mandatory for me. You don't
Mm,
touch a weight, you don't touch a computer, you don't touch a phone. You go do what you need to do and take care of you. So those are my tips and advice for anybody that wants to get interested, because it is a very subjective sport. And if you put in the work, you put in the time and the energy, you're not going to always get the results that you think you deserve, right?
right,
Oh, I thought I came in condition, but if you look at those photos and look at the person next to you, you're like, oh, okay, I got some work to do. Be
right.
realistic about it, right? But if you get into it, you're gonna love it, because when it's for you, I love every show that I done been in. You
Right.
understand? I done love all the competitors that I done competed with. And I cannot wait to make my pro debut in 2024.
All right. Your information is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If someone wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way within that information to
Um,
reach out to you?
so you can email me. I mean, honestly, you can send me a DM. I don't mind. You can hop in my DMs. I'll answer. Okay, I'll answer. And you can send me a message anywhere, so it's fine. I mean, just take whatever is easiest for you, and I love to come on and talk to me.
So our email is admin@UTC.
UCT.
Oh Lord, I got that wrong.
Look at you, girl. What's going on with you?
Yeah, I know. Okay. It's UC.
UCTNU.com.
And I
Look
want
at
to make sure it's on the screen.
y'all see her giving out the
I
wrong
know,
stuff.
I know. Okay. So you got admin@UCTNU.com. Her
Mm-hmm.
IG is Coach Nisi, and
Mm-hmm.
her Facebook is Uncovering the New You.
Yes.
Um, Coach Nisi also has a book, Uncovering the New You. You can actually purchase that on Amazon. In
Awesome.
that book, she details her life journey.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very inspiring book. I could not put it down when I started reading it. It gave me a more detailed insight on who I was working with, so I was able to appreciate her more because I knew her journey. But it is very inspiring book. So it's Uncovering the New You, not YOU but you, and you can get it at Amazon.com. You can purchase it on Amazon.com, and then if you need to reach out to her, she's on IG and she is also on Facebook. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I had told you I needed to get you on the show because I didn't want it to be December and you had got your pro card in September because it's too long.
All right, baby.
It was too long. I hope everybody really enjoyed the show, and I hope they leave inspired. Your journey has been rough and tough, but at the end, I need to make you a shirt that says "But God," because
There you go.
you have made it through a lot, but you are still standing. Now I know why you in class A, but you are still standing. It's an inside joke.
Yeah, they put me in the wrong category, y'all. They put me in class. We ain't gonna go back. We're not gonna run it back because we came out with what we needed. We good. We ain't gonna run it back.
So look, we can't wait to interview you after you make your pro debut. So we will definitely have you back on the show. But thank you and congratulations on all of your success. Thank you for taking me along the ride. I really appreciate it. It was nerve-wracking that Friday, but yeah, I felt like I was Mama Bear. But it was very interesting. It was what I learned a lot. I really did. So everyone, we want to thank you for tuning in to hear Coach Nisi's journey to getting her IFBB Pro Card, Figure Pro Card, and we will see you in 2 weeks. On the 27th will be our next show. So until then, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell, the notification bell, so you can be alerted when upcoming shows are available. We are going to sign off and say good night. Coach Nisi, you hold on. And to you all, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Good night.
Night.